We'd
Mr.
like
Chairman.
to welcome you too.
Pull your microphone down there.
It's all right.
There we go.
I'll learn to do this.
I thought you just
I
like
got
to have
4
me-
more years, though. I can learn how to do it.
I just like you let me to tell you that. That's
Yeah,
all.
Charles.
That's how things to go.
We'd like to welcome everyone to our November the 19th, 2018 meeting. At this time, I will be glad to do the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please stand. Father, we gather this evening to make decisions for our community. May we use only the best skills that we have available, Lord, and make judgments, keeping ourselves that are impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and the pitfalls of each matter that we make. May we always act in accordance with what is best for our community and for our fellow citizens. We ask these things in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
The pledge, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Please be seated. Ladies, how are y'all this evening? Would you mind coming up, introduce yourselves, and welcome to the podium. These are our Federal Cumberland Youth Council members. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen Calderon, and I am a current senior at Grace Creek High School. I am the secretary for my Future Business Leaders of America chapter at the school, and I'm currently representing the face of Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashton Burgos. I'm the student body president at Grace Creek High School, as well as membership chair of the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council. And I would personally like to thank Mr. Adams for attending our event that we had last week. It was very nice to see your face, and we very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
They did get a picture.
I
Got
knew
a
they
picture.
did.
You know,
I knew
got
they
a picture.
would.
It was a nice event. They were celebrating the military, and got supplies for the militaries to be able to send in. They'll tell you about it. It's excellent.
And we will recognize you again at the end of the meeting, okay? Thank you. Public comment period. County Manager, would you please read the public comment policy?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The public comment period is an opportunity for citizens to share their thoughts. The public comment period shall last no longer than 15 minutes. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make remarks until the 15-minute time limit is attained. No time may be yielded to a speaker by another speaker. We ask each speaker, when they come to the lectern, to please begin their remarks by stating their name and address. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
We have 3 speakers this evening. Our first speaker is Mr. Willie Williams.
Mr. Willie Williams. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Commissioners, my name is Willie Williams, 1165 Sand Hill Road, Hope Mills, North Carolina. My concern is, I've been reading the paper, I'm with a group called the Community Awareness Alliance. And we inform the communities of issues that's going on, things that's wrong, up, down, left, or right. We keep the community abreast of what's going on, and we get on issues and try to help straighten them out. Okay, one issue came to us, the homeless. I've been reading lately, and it seems that there's a cultural art building coming along that the county is in the middle of, I think. I hear a lot of things that money is being appropriated for this, that, and the other, but I don't hear anything about what we're going to do for the homeless. Now, all these money for culture, those things are benefiting me, but the least of these is not doing anything for these people. Now, I know from what I gather that money comes through the county for the homeless first, and if the city's involved, it's a partnership thing or whatever. But I would like to hear more from the county as to what we're going to do for the people, the homeless people on the outside. We have all these ballparks coming that the city putting up in the county, whatever. We don't want to see these homeless people standing around with pushing shopping carts standing outside with all these people coming from all over the country, and they're not coming back again if they see all these homeless people standing out. We're not going to do anything for them. We should have some sort of community center where some of these people can go take a bath, where they can store all this stuff that they push into these shopping carts. And they will do it because we're in contact with them. And if they had somewhere where they could go and take a bath or store their stuff, they would do it. But we're not doing anything for the homeless. And it's a shame a city of this size. And every time I eat and throw food outside, I feel guilty. When I go to sleep at night, I feel guilty because they're on the outside, can't take a bath or anything. We're not doing anything, but we are talking about culture art buildings. We're talking about all these big elaborate things that we are doing, which is well and good. But I believe we can walk and chew gum at the same time in this city, because this is a smart city, and we're doing a lot of good things. Commissioners as well as city council. I've been before the city council, told them the same things. I would like to see us put some information out as to the effect of what we are planning on doing for the homeless, or else I would like to, if my organization could, if there's some liaison person, somebody that we could talk to that could tell us what kind of plans they are planning on implementing, or if they have any plans. And if so, we could get it out to the community, because if not, we're going to be heard again, and next time we're going to be loud. There's a bunch of them wanted to come down here tonight, but I said, no, we couldn't bring up all those people down here. Now, it wouldn't be fair to the commission for us to do this. But we need to do something for the homeless, and we need to put some information out that we're doing something, because the people on the outside are getting the impression that we don't care. That's about it. Thank you.
Speaking of being a smart city, as you were speaking, I don't know what you were told by the city, but if you would like to wait till this meeting's over, I'll be glad to share a whole lot of information that we have with some things that we've been discussing. We have we're part of a committee picking out a location. There's money available. The city and the county, some folks have made trips to different places. South Carolina, Amy, help me out, maybe down. Would you help me out here just a minute?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't know the details of where the trips have been taken, but I do know there's some money in the CDBG-DR disaster recovery for a day center for the homeless. I believe that's what you're referring to.
Yes, yes.
But, sir, if there's anybody that you could connect me with that I can come to where I can sit down and talk to them and they can give me this information, because you could tell me 50 things at night and I can take 2 back to the group.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if you could direct me to somebody, give me somebody's name or something that I can talk to, and we can sit down. I need to tell these people in the street something.
I believe you're going to be encouraged with what you hear, Mr. Williams.
I feel impressed already.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down.
Mr. Williams, I generally don't pat other commissioners on the back because we all think we do a great job, but there's not a bigger advocate for homeless people than Mr. Evans down here. Every time we go to spend $1 somewhere, he wants to know what part of that dollar is going to the homeless. So there's not a bigger person on the city council or the county commissioners that worries about the homeless more than Mr. Evans does. So
I love that, but we got to know.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Our second speaker is Patricia Blakely.
Thank you, Ms. Blakely.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Council, good evening. My name is Patricia Blakely. I'm the wife of Ransom B. Lee, retired military. We bought our home in 1997 at 2715 Heather Avenue, Spring Lake, North Carolina, which is Cumberland County. We are lost. No one cares about us, and we're a little bit fed up. My issue is the water situation in Overhills Park, in which Mr. Wellens owns the property. I have tried contacting the Fayetteville newspaper. I went down, I took pictures a couple of years ago. To lo behold, it never made the newspaper, etc. Okay. October 2nd, 2018, I filmed some gentleman doing Florence, stealing water from the fire hydrants by my home. Something told me there's something not right. Why is he coming there filming up? And then I took pictures. I can show you guys all kinds of stuff. I got to make this short. Anyhow, the next month, I received a bill saying that my family used 7,000 gallons of water. We have not used 7,000 gallons of water since 1997. We do not use the, water is delivered to our homes. We do not cook with the water. We do not drink the water. The water that comes out the pipe, I can hardly even flush the toilet. My husband had a stroke. He's in a wheelchair. I have a son that has Down syndrome. I have my own mental issue, and I also work for the Cumberland County Sheriff Department. And I try my best to do the best that I can. It's about time. We need someone to think about us out there in Overhills Park. We are decent citizens. I pay my bills. There's no need that I cannot use water to flush my toilet, to take a bath, to live like normal human beings. I pay my bills, we pay our taxes, okay? We live a decent citizen. Someone needs to look out for us. It's rotten pipes, it's lead, the pressure is I got pictures showing the pressure coming out. You can't flush the toilet, you can't take a shower. Good thing I have water that's delivered to my house and we can go, survival mode. And I can, boil up water like the old-fashioned ways. When I grew up, if we didn't get water, it didn't rain. But I didn't have what do you call it, suck pumps. I shouldn't have to do that in this year time. And I do not live in a flood zone. Thank God, I do in Florence. Where I live in Overhills Park, I looked on the map. There wasn't a dot by my house. My family was like, Patricia, you need to leave. I said, where am I going to go with a handicapped man, son and Down syndrome? Where am I going with all that? So I decided I had vests. I had all kinds of stuff to take care of my family. Okay, I didn't lose no paid cable. I didn't lose anything. That's only the good part about where I am. But we have no water, no decent water, no decent water. Why do I have to continue buying water? Okay, I don't even know where the water is coming from. We had a water breakage last week. Mr. Wellens needs to stop. He took it and he skanked the water out. Then this month he goes, oh, you only got 38 gallons of water. Now you owe $197.70. It needs to stop, guys.
Jeffrey Brown, raise your hand. That's the fellow I want you to talk to, okay? Jeffrey can give you some suggestions, okay? Thank you. Next speaker.
Our third and final speaker is Mr. Douglas Modi.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Douglas B. Modi. I live at 5886 Columbine Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've been looking at the situation in the world. We've been attacked on many fronts. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Grenada, Afghanistan invasion. So are we supposed to trust the Soviets? No. Then we have a journalist getting murdered, and Senator Rubio said he was set up. And then there were some other things that happened. Iran had made fake money for decades and devaluated the American dollar on the world economy. We had 9/11, we had 15 Saudis and 3 Syrians on those aircraft. I want to remind people of that. So those were the hijackers. So my thing is, we need to pay them back. I had received a message, Lester Holt on Columbus Day stated that our fossil fuels had to be declined by the year 2030. Now my question is to the Cumberland County Board and the people of America is how are we going to reduce our fossil fuels? My recommendations, I have 2. Instead of a 5-day work week, we go to a 4-day work week and we go 10-hour days. We give everybody a 3-day weekend. That'll increase production. It'll help our citizens be happy. We'll have happy families, reduce stress on our personnel, and at the same time, we will have 20% less fossil fuels because we will not be driving 5 days a week. We'll be driving 4 days a week to our offices. Then the other recommendations are, maybe 30% of our power bill is by water heaters. So then I suggest we go and get solar-powered water heaters, start going in solar and try and reduce things. And while we do this reduction for whatever amount of time I estimate 16 years. We will then have to generate into electrical automobiles and wean off of fossil fuels because the population will increase. And then we will be back in the same boat we were before. We have, a scientist said we only had 200 years left of our fossil fuels or our things for the world, and we have to economize now. And I'm a retired senior intel analyst for the United States Army.
Thank you. Thank you for your insight. Is that
There are no further speakers.
okay? Ms. Cannon, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
We're at
Move we
number
approve the agenda.
one, we're going to approve the agenda. I hear a motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Booth, a second from Dr. Council. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Anything to be removed from the consent agenda? If not, call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
All right. Have a motion by Commissioner Fairclough. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Item number 3 would be public hearings. Ms.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item 3A is our Eastover Area Land Use Plan, and I would like to ask Trey Smith to present this item, please.
Okay. Trey, always good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Good evening. Oh. Okay, hold on. Gotcha. The Eastover Area Land Use Plan Study Area is generally located. Is there a, which one? The red one? Did I have a laser pointer on that?
Do we open, as soon as he speaks, we're going to open up the public hearing?
I would think after he finishes the
Okay.
presentation and the board has an opportunity for questions.
Gotcha. All right.
It's generally located to the north of 24, to the south of Highway 295, to the east of the Cape Fear River, and to the west of Wade Stedman Road. You can see the blue area in there is the town limits for the town of Eastover. Public input. A kickoff meeting was held in November of 2017. All property owners of record received mailed notice of the meeting. At the kickoff meeting, a committee was formed, and this committee met from December 2017 to August 2018. At that time, the committee helped its planning staff in crafting the recommendations and future land use map. Existing conditions. The plan consists of information evaluating existing conditions. This includes census data as well as maps such as existing land use, which you can tell on this map is the area is mostly agricultural and single-family residential. Current zoning was analyzed as well. The vast majority of the area is zoned the green, which is A1 agricultural, with these areas in here, the browner areas, some rural residential put in there as well. Transportation was studied. One of the main things transportation-wise affecting the area going forward is the widening of Interstate 95 from Eastover to Benson or Dunn. Municipal influence areas and airport overlay districts and voluntary agricultural districts. Fayetteville's MIA is right here in the purple. Eastover's MIA is out this way. As you can tell, as again, the blue area outlined is the town of Eastover. Utilities were looked at. Water goes out to a vast majority of the area. The green line is existing sewer. Wetlands and floodplains were analyzed. There's a lot of delineated wetlands in these areas, especially on the east side of the town. These areas out here, and a lot of the areas are in special floodplain designation. Recommendations. The plan includes recommendations for the plan area as a whole, as well as specific recommendations for the town of Eastover. I'm going to briefly go through just a few of these recommendations. Open space and parks, protect the natural areas, wildlife habitats, endangered species, water quality, historic features and scenic sites. Provide additional signage or wayfinding for parks and other public spaces and places of interest. Another one was identify possible locations for future Cape Fear River access for recreational purposes. Agricultural and farmland, create and promote a farmers market and farm to fork program. Continue to support and promote the Cumberland County Voluntary Agricultural District. Residential, improve and or add street lighting in residential areas. Locate sidewalks and pedestrian facilities where appropriate to provide access to schools, recreation areas, and commercial centers. Community appearance. Continue to enforce the Cumberland County minimum housing and junk vehicle ordinances. They just wanted to place a strong emphasis on that. Identify new programs to reduce roadway litter and to educate citizens of the financial impacts of littering. Commercial, strengthen existing landscape requirements for commercial developments. A lot of the committee members indicated that they'd like to see some of the, what commercial uses were done out there, that they have greater design standards where there's a more focus on appearance, landscape, and things of that nature. Industrial, promote incentives for industry to locate in existing vacant structures. Encourage the location of industries that will utilize agricultural produce from the area and will not involve processing of animals or animal byproducts. Community facilities and services, designate an emergency shelter within the study area. Locate a law enforcement substation within the plan area. Consider a partnership with the town of Eastover in reestablishing the Flea Hill Drainage District when current agreement expires in 2024. These recommendations are for the county, and the town has specified later that some of these recommendations are specific to the town of Eastover. I'll briefly go over those. One of those was consider a text amendment to the subdivision ordinance removing 0 lot line subdivisions. There was a general consensus there that the 0 lot line subdivisions within the town of Eastover, they disliked the appearance of it and wanted to study having that possibly removed. Apply for grant funding to create a bicycle and pedestrian plan, create a downtown community space and focal point. Consider partnership with Cumberland County in reestablishing the Flea Hill Drainage District when current agreement expires in 2024. Future land use map. Moving on. The future land use map shown here. As you can see, a large portion of the area is designated rural density residential. That is, this colors show up differently on these slideshow presentations, but it's this color around in here. That area has a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, and associated zoning districts with that classification are R20, R20A, RR, R30, R30A, R40, and R40A. The northwest portion of this area right in here is residential maximum density, 30,000 square feet is what we called for. That's a little bit less intense, calls for a little bit less intense type of use than rural density residential calls for. The minimum lot size is 30,000 square feet, and the zoning districts associated with that would be R30, R30A, R40, and R40A. The committee felt that this area, due to soils, due to wetlands and things, and just the general area, that they felt that area should not be developed at a rate going forward at a high density. The dark yellow areas you see are suburban density residential, and they have a minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet. Zoning districts associated with that are R7.5 and R15. That's these areas in here. They're located where both water and sewer are present. Town of Eastover is a mix of rural density residential and suburban density. This suburban density residential in here, the town and the committee saw there was a desire to have a higher density type residential development located adjacent to its commercial core area, which is this blue area in here. There's some areas going down these roads here that may already have water and sewer existing, but they just felt that it was more appropriate for that level of density to be more closely located near the commercial core area. Plan consistency. This was added in doing these last couple of plans. There's been some questions arise as to how maybe these plans apply to consistency statements and when making rezoning decisions. We did a little bit of research, and we added this little bit of a clarification to this plan, and hopefully may add it going forward to the additional plans. There's 2 paragraphs in here that I want to read to you real quick that I felt was important. The designation of an area with a particular land use classification does not mean that the most intense zoning district described in the land use classifications is automatically recommended. A range of densities and intensities apply with each category, and the use of different zoning districts within each category should reinforce this range and be based on infrastructure, capacity, community character, protection of common open space, and prevailing density and lot size in the surrounding area. The future land use map documents the general recommended future use for each designated area. However, other types of uses may be compatible with the designated use and deemed to be consistent with the land use plan. For example, a school or duplex style home could be found to be consistent with the plan designation of suburban density residential. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Eastover Committee and residents. I thought they worked really well with staff, and there was some few heated debates and discussions, but they did a great job. And there's a couple of members here, I believe, of the committee here. If you'd like to ask them any questions going forward, hopefully they might be willing to say a word or two. If you have any questions from me, I'd be more than happy to answer them. That's all I have for you, though.
Any comments before we?
Mr. Chairman, Kim Lazarge, Town Manager of Eastover. I'd just like to say I think this is an excellent compromise. It will allow development within the town of Eastover, and it will also allow us to maintain some of our local characters. So, appreciate the county's assistance.
Hey, we appreciate what you do along with the other municipalities. Thank you very much. Any questions for anyone?
I have one, Mr. Chairman. I thank you. And I heard you talk about the widening of 95, but I didn't really see anything in this plan. In terms of the exits off of 95 and how they're going to impact, I mean, it's going to impact all up and down 95. Is any of that, and that came later probably because I see the study started a couple of years ago, but recently, because I saw the maps, they're putting out the maps now of that whole I-95 corridor. Is there some concern, or at least have we taken into consideration any of that in terms of what the Department of Transportation is going to do up and down there? It's going to have a big impact, I think, on Eastover, where they're located, how they're going to do, where they're going to come off at. And I didn't see anything in this that talked about that.
That wasn't factored in. What was factored in was the anticipated popularity of the area. The desire for residential, the desire commercial type uses was factored into the plan, but the specifics of where the interchanges were going to be and things of that nature, we didn't go in as in depth as what maybe an additional transportation type plan would do.
Well, yeah, the only reason I say that, I saw that they had they wanted a commercial, possibly an overlay district in there, and I think that as you talk about these exits off of there, will have a distinct change of how all of this is going to go in some of your land use plans because of the amount of traffic that it may or may not generate. I don't know.
Well, what we discussed was, the committee and the town members as a whole, they wanted to concentrate most of the commercial development within this commercial core overlay you see in this blue area here. They were very agreeable to development, on these, that interchange there around that commercial core overlay. You can see the green, the floodway goes over that a little bit, but more of that's blue than what you anticipate. And this commercial area up in here, and it calls for commercial and industrial type uses down at this interchange. But the town and those areas, primarily wanted to focus those commercial type uses in that area. And but this plan overall as well does increase. It calls for, from the plan that was adopted in 2000, calls for a lot more of a dense type of development and allows for a higher density and a lot calls for in those areas than as opposed to the plan that was adopted in 2000.
Yeah, I looked at the two different plans, and you know, I understand what we may want, but those interchanges I think are going to have some change. So as long as we got some flexibility, that we go back and look at this thing, and I think the town wants to look at this thing as that plan moves along.
Absolutely,
and have some input into. I think right now, from when we were up in Falcon, I think the manager and I were up in Falcon. And I think Kim was there. I think a number of Eastover people were there. We just need to make sure. I mean, as we do this plan, we need to make sure that the Department of Transportation understands what this town wants and what the whole Eastover and the land use plan that we have at least have some. Make sure that we are engaged with them as they move forward with this project. That's
absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Fairclough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned the Flea Hill Drainage District. It just occurred to me, how well did the Flea Hill Drainage District do during the hurricanes that we've had recently? And I was curious to know who actually is doing the maintenance on those, and when's the last time they were cleaned out? In my memory, I can't remember when the last time they were cleaned out. Kim, you can address that. I don't know, or just your memory, but.
Mr. Crumpler's gonna.
Okay.
It handled the last storm pretty well. Matthew was a disaster.
Stan, would you come to the mic, please?
It handled Matthew pretty well. The two before, especially Matthew, was pretty much a disaster. We've looked into the possibility of doing some things out there, but as we're under contract until 2024 from the original one, and the way it was set up originally did not provide for maintenance down the road. So that's been the issue all along.
Do you know the last time? My memory says sometime early 70s, maybe. That's the last time.
It was originally done in '74 and finished, and some of the things were actually mowed and cleared one time after that, but that's all that has been done.
Is that right? Okay.
It's not good.
So in 20, is there anything can be done between now and 23, 24, whatever the deal?
We can start by setting it up so when 2024 gets here, we'll be ready to go again so that we can talk with the people that will be giving us the funds to do that. We have talked to several before, and right now 2024 is the year that's holding us back. That's all. We've done everything we can do up until then, but we have stuff that we're in the works with now to try to set up a new drainage district so that those people can handle that, because the town itself only has about 40% of that all that drainage system in it. Everything else will be in the county.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Bush.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the folks that worked on this. I think it's a great balance of keeping in focus the legislation required, NCGS 153A, the futuristic look of everyone's looking now where to move is walkability, and they also mean like cycleability and stuff, and the vision for trying to get the developers to do everything underground cables and like underground utilities from now on. That's going to be something that really drives folks there. The vision to know that we're one of the few areas that doesn't really, it has some water, that we don't have a lot of our big attractions on the water, and that could be something that y'all could corner the market on very quickly with that idea. The 295, throw a coin in the air and see who lands heads or tails as to what's going to happen on that, so we can pray a lot. One thing I was surprised about, and Commissioner Adams and I both looked at this, in the demographics section there, it looked like that the numbers showed that in the last 6 years, or 2010 to 2016, only 64 people moved to the area. That I think I know at least the 64 people. I think people are keeping quiet. I think there's a lot more people move there. They just don't want to admit it,
Probably
and they don't want anyone else coming out there. I mean, I'm just.
That seems to
I'm
be a
just
theme.
Yeah, I see a couple of you chuckling.
I'm
6 years, only 64 people.
Right?
Yeah, it did. It was 3692 from 3628. That's 64 people, and I think I can name 50 that I know that moved out there. So
That seemed to be a theme, was we got a good thing and don't let everybody know about it.
I think that's what they have to. I think there's a pledge you have to take.
That's right.
But anyway, I'm very appreciative of the work. I think it's very. Oh, and also the looking back on trying to keep the commercial buildings that you already have there, instead of plowing them down like large corporations seem to be able to do, reuse them. There's got to be a way to retrofit them for other areas coming out there, rather than just always having to do, mow down trees and do vacant land. So I appreciate the look forward, look back, and I'm very happy with the plan.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
At this time, we will open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
There are no speakers.
Okay, we will close the public hearing, and we will call for motion and second and vote.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the Eastover area land use plan as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, a second by Commissioner Booth. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call you a vote.
Unanimous.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all of you. Uncontested rezoning cases, that would be case P18-33.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patty Spiker will review this rezoning case.
Okay. You got that one.
Case P1833 is a request for a rezoning from RR to C1P CZ for all the allowed uses in the light commercial zoning district located at 6569 Rockfish Road in the property zoned by Laos Gazan. The Joint Planning Board unanimously recommended approval, which you have a copy of their motion in your packet. And staff does request, if you're inclined to approve this rezoning request tonight, to make that subject to the conditions of approval that are contained in your packet.
Okay. We will open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers.
We will close the public hearing. Call for any questions, discussion?
Need a motion.
Mr. Booth, you ready?
If there's no discussions at this time, in case P18-33, I move to approve the rezoning from RR Rural Residential to C1P Planned Local Business District CZ Conditional Zoning for all allowed uses in the C1P District, and find it is consistent with the text of the Southwest Commercial Land Use Plan from 2013, which recommends strip commercial along Camden Road and is consistent with the location criteria for light commercial in the Land Use Policies Plan from 2009, and further find that approval of the C1P/CZ district is reasonable and in the public interest because the district recommended will restrict the allowable uses to those that would be in harmony with the existing commercial uses in the area without allowing the heavy commercial that would not be compatible with the remaining residential zone properties.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth, second by Commissioner Council. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. We're now at item 4, items of business. Attorney Moorfield.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is a request for a refund of an excise tax paid on the recording of a deed in Cumberland County that should have been recorded in Harnett County. I did verify that the deed was in fact recorded in Harnett County also. The Register of Deeds recommended that the excise, the one half of the county's portion of the excise tax of $219.50 be refunded. We did give notice of this hearing. The board set this hearing at the last meeting, and we did give notice to the taxpayer. And if anyone is here representing the taxpayer and wants to speak to that, then the board should consider that. But it's not a public hearing; it's just a quasi-judicial hearing.
Okay. Are there any speakers?
With that said, Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board approve it.
Okay.
Can I ask, I'm just trying to figure, for a refund of the county's 1/2 of the excise tax?
One half is county, one half is state.
Okay, I got you.
We don't refund the state's portion.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out, it didn't say anything about, I was wondering what the other 1/2 was, so. Okay. So they asked the state for their money back too?
I don't know, but I guess.
I just wonder.
Okay. No, we can ask for your motion.
So, I recommend that the board, I guess we conducted the hearing and approved the requested refund. I don't know what the hearing means. Does he have to open up something?
It's a statutory process.
Yeah.
I guess we had the hearing?
Yeah,
Mr.
we had the
Chairman?
hearing.
So I approve the requested refund.
Second. Okay. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, we're at item B, consideration of amendments, bylaws. Commissioner Adams.
Well, I was going to go to Madam Chairman first to bring it up, but
So the item this evening is consideration of amendments to the Fayetteville-Cumberland Economic Development Corporation bylaws. We have with us this evening Mr. Robert Van Giens that will provide a detail of the requested bylaw changes.
Good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity to come before you. As you may recall, when FCDC was stood up by roughly 2.5 years ago, under a joint agreement with the City of Fayetteville, you set a board of directors mix that was it was 3 from the county, 3 from the city, 2 from the private sector. And just over my time and arrival, looking at well, let me just say here that these amendments were adopted by FCDC board after a lengthy discussion. I'll touch on that very briefly. Commissioner Adams served on the board. Chairman Lancaster currently does when these some of these conversations were had, and along with County Manager Kennan. But any changes to our membership requires approval by both the city and the county for our bylaws. The city has actually already approved these, and so they're here with you tonight. But quite simply, there are 3 amendments going backwards from the bottom. One is changing our address because of where we're located. The second being when we appoint the board chair, and this is just something through our discussions on overall operations, that it's tough to ask people to pick officers immediately upon walking into a cold room with appointments, and that July would give time for new members to feel comfortable in who they might be voting for or running for office. And then the last one being regarding the size of our board. And there's 2 primary driving forces behind this request. The first being parity. We're roughly $1 million budget annually with the funds that we receive from you and the county and the city and that we raise from external sources. But our board is split 3, 3, and 2. This would actually bring us to 4, 4, and 2, which would get us to roughly $100,000 per appointing entity proportional to their funding. It would help us improve with quorum. And quite simply, what we're also would establish too is with this additional member, in addition to the chair or the chair's designee each year, every year you would appoint 1 member to either be on the board or reappointed. It would fill out those slots. We'd end up with a rotation of 1 appointment each year. So with that, we're requesting that you vote to increase your appointments, and this year you'd be appointing to fill 2 spots on the EDC board.
Questions, discussion?
I don't have any questions or anything. Okay. I looked at this and I had a major concern. I had a major concern when I was on that board. I think when we stood this up a few years ago, there was clearly an entity that was the private sector, and I think it was Delinda Lee Allen and all of that. Now I have no idea who the private sector is. I think that this ought to go to committee. Committee ought to talk about it because either back to the policy committee to have a conversation, because I don't know who private sector is and who private sector picks. I don't think that that's something that we delegate without knowing who that private sector is. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we send this back to policy to have that discussion as to that private sector.
Well, we have a motion in.
I'll second that for discussion.
Okay, have a second.
Because I have a question. That was my same question is, I don't know about the history of it, but when you get notice that Joe Jones's term is up by the private sector, who do you notify?
And actually, the Community Development Foundation does still exist as an entity, and we have been working with them, and that is the Linda Lee Allen was a subset of that group. We've actually raised funds from the private sector through 2026 and CenturyLink and coming in, but we are working with them, and they are the ones that have made the current appointments as the Community Development Foundation, which is we're working to bring that organization back to full strength.
Not the community. You're not talking about.
I'm sorry. It is CDF. It's the yes. It's the Community Development Foundation. That was actually the group that Linda Lee Allen. It's an interesting name for that group that goes back to, I believe, in the past it might have been Chris Bostic was chair. I think currently Terry. Wow, how am I blanking today? It's been rough day today, long day. Terry Hutchins is. You can't tell my family's arrived in town from out of state for Thanksgiving at Kenya. It's it'll slow you down. But Terry Hutchins is the current chair, and actually recognizing the contribution the TDA made, they appointed Vivek Tandon, working to represent that sector to fill one of the private sector spots. Vivek is chair of the TDA.
The TDA will always get at least one?
No, what that means is that our goal has always been with the private sector folks that our funding should represent the sectors that are supporting us. And so with the hoteliers and the TDA providing funds now, it seemed like that was would be a good fit for them to, from the CDF side. Jack Rossetter is the other appointment of the CDF board of H&H Homes.
I think Marshall was next, and then I'll go.
Commissioner Fairclough?
I'm trying to find my copy of the thing. I read it before, but what are the changes to the private sector number?
None.
None.
Just
why do we need to talk about this in the policy committee then?
Well, because
we're not making any changes.
Well, I mean, I think that what happened is that who determines the private sector? If I come to town and I give you $30,000, do I become the private sector? Who becomes the private sector? Who determines the private sector? I mean, if I give you more money than somebody else, if it's based about raising money and who contributes to this, if I come to town and I set up office and I give you $30,000 or $50,000, do I get a seat on this board?
Let me ask an alternative question. Who appoints the private sector?
Well, that's the question I'm asking.
It is still the board of the CDF. And
the board of what?
The board of the Community Development Foundation board.
They appoint the two people in the private sector.
And so my question is why? I mean, why that group? I mean, there's a bunch of groups in town. Why that group? I mean, I'm not talking. I'm just asking a rhetorical question.
All right, here's what I think we can do. I think we can go ahead and approve the changes that they want, and then we can study how that board gets approved, because the city's already approved it, and all we're going to do is hold up the whole shooting match, and I don't see any point to do that.
If you approve this, then you don't have a discussion, because it's already determined of who's going to appoint this. I understand what the city did. Just because the city made a mistake don't mean we have to make a mistake.
Well, I mean,
I think the city made a mistake.
I think it's up to that board to throw it out for discussion if they want to make the changes in how people are appointed. I mean, we can change the number from this end. Well, I don't see a problem changing the number. Now, changing how they're appointed and so forth, I think that can go back to some other board for discussion. It don't have to be here, unless the city's inclined to do it as well.
Well, we're the ones that set it up. I mean, it is us. We set all of this up.
It's us. It's part us. It's not all us.
Well, no, I mean, but I understand that. But we've got a part that we give money to, and I think it's our responsibility to make sure it's right and wrong. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I think this ought to go back to policy. We ought to have a clear delineation and consideration of this.
If I could, Commissioner Adams, I would just say that I believe in incremental change and incremental improvement, and I hear that. We're making these changes based on the things that, as we went through reappointment last year and discussions around a board on diversity and having a broader and more open room at the table, I'm happy. Well, I'm not going to walk out of here not taking this conversation away, regardless of your actions later on tonight. But if we could push forward with this change, I give you my word, we'll go back and have that conversation to come forward. I would just hate to, after a year of discussion, adding at the city and the county side, hold that to talk about something we've yet to discuss, to yet see the outcome, to put it down further the road. But we will come back to this immediately if you like.
And I would tell this board, I've had this discussion with that board for a number of times. I mean, it's not anything new that board doesn't understand. It was even before you got there, Robert. It's not anything, any reflection on you. But I've always had an issue with some group that we don't appointing some folk, and that group is not inclusive of this entire community. I mean, I looked at the group, and nobody that's, it's just not. It has to be inclusive, and it's not. And that's the major issue when you let some entity that we don't have input on make a decision. And that has nothing to do, and I trust you and I believe in you. I think you've done an excellent job while you've been there, but I think that this board has a duty to make sure that happens. So that was my motion, Mr. Chairman. I think I got a second. I don't know if it'll pass, but
any other discussion? Well, we have your motion, and we have a second by Mr. Booth.
My second, if this is your motion, is to go back and define or refine the phrase private sector. You're okay with 442? We need to know who is corporal sector or major sector or private sector.
Who determines who makes that appointment? Yes, you're exactly right.
Okay, that's my only question. Is that's two of the votes, and I wouldn't have any idea where they came from. I still don't.
Right, that's right.
Well, let's call for your vote. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand.
Voting in favor, Commissioner Council, Commissioner Booth, Commissioner Adams, and Commissioner Evans. Voting in opposition, Commissioners Faircloth and Chairman Lancaster.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
I got a question, please.
Question.
This has been an ongoing concern. It didn't just start. Can we put a time limit on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good question.
You certainly can.
And I have not been a part of any of the discussions about who gets on and how, and it's been an ongoing concern. But I would hope that we can go ahead and settle it.
I agree with that. We can do it on the next. You're chairman of policy. You can put it on your next policy committee meeting for. It's a very refined question. And it's very, but I asked several people who was the private sector, and I said, it depends. I said, depends on what? It depends on who you ask. I went, well, I'm asking you. And so that's where mine started.
Well, and I'll own, I didn't realize that those were recent conversations. Be happy to share what we've been working on to try to broaden that base and pull it together when we get to the policy committee.
And I think that's all. I mean, that's all. It's just to have that conversation and that information.
Happy to.
It has been an ongoing concern for some years, some time. The committee is also not reflective, generally, of our population.
Absolutely. That's why we're hoping to grow the overall pool.
And so, but we can't keep on sending it back.
How stacked is the next policy committee meeting?
We haven't been able to have one because.
Mr. Chairman, we can put this item on the December Policy Committee agenda.
There you go.
Mr. Van Giens has just informed me he will not be available that week, the first week of December.
We're working a trade show.
Must be cruising.
Trade show.
Trade show.
Vacation from his in-laws.
Well, we know what we have to do, so we'll work on that. Okay. Let's go to item C.
Thank you very much.
Consideration of adoption of 2019 Board of Commissioners regular meeting dates. Manager Kennedy.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, each year the board adopts the calendar for the regular meeting dates. There are several exceptions to be noted this evening. During the month of January, we recommend the Monday evening meeting being moved to Tuesday, January 22nd, because the 21st will be observing the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. The second exception is a recommendation to cancel the first meeting in the month of March due to the North Carolina Association of County Officials Legislative Goals Conference that will be held March 2nd through the 6th. The third exception is for the Easter holiday. We typically move that meeting to Tuesday, and this year it will be Tuesday, April 23rd, because Easter Monday falls on April 22nd. And then the final exception is due to the Labor Day holiday. We would recommend moving the meeting to Tuesday, September the 3rd, to observe Labor Day on September the 2nd.
Okay. Everybody familiar with those dates?
Yes. I always forget this question. We don't, as a county, celebrate Easter Monday.
No, ma'am, we don't. The county observes the same holidays as state government, and we're off on Good Friday.
Okay.
I think this happened way back in November 2012 by this thing right here. And so I guess we just kept doing it, huh?
What? No, well, we had a lot of people. We had some people with children in school, and that week was used as a holiday week. How you know? I might have a child in school. And
I had 5 of them, so I understand. I had 5 of them.
I don't know if it's still necessary, or how do you feel? Do we have people taking vacation?
I think we have continued that practice even though we observe Good Friday, because there are still people that travel.
That's right. There are people that travel
yes,
sometimes.
ma'am.
So I'm going to move that we accept the adopt the schedule.
Move to adopt by Commissioner Council, a second by Commissioner Adams. Any other discussion?
I'm sorry.
Everybody all right with those dates? All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, now we're going to find us a voting delegate. Legislative Goals Conference. County Manager.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. This is the Legislative Goals Conference that will be held on Thursday and Friday, January 10th and 11th in Raleigh. The Board of Commissioners is requested to designate a commissioner or to serve as the voting delegate to this conference.
Okay, the floor is open.
I think Mr. Fairclough.
Mr. Fairclough?
Oh, I'm sorry. He got his light on.
You got his light on. All right, Marshall. Yes. Are you taking the job?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Commissioner Council.
Oh, okay.
I move we accept both of them.
Both?
What?
Can I do that?
We get one vote.
A delegate.
I'm
A
not.
delegate,
We get one vote.
A delegate. So it looks like
in case something happens to one, the other one can.
You can make me alternate if you want to.
That's what. Yeah.
Okay. Council primary, Faircloth alternate. Is that okay?
I'll amend my motion that council will be the primary and Faircloth be the alternate.
I'll second it.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Unanimous.
We're at number
Mark
5.
did that mighty quick, though.
He did do that.
He did that mighty quick.
I had prior conflict.
Is the golf?
It was fixed. It was in.
It was fixed.
Yeah, we're at number 5, nominations. It looks like we have Cumberland County Workforce Development Board 4 vacancies, and we're looking for some nominations.
Okay.
And
ready.
I'm listening. Okay?
I've got 4 nominations ready.
Okay?
Mark Wilderman, Eric Buck, Philip Perrier, and Dr. J. Lee Brown.
Commissioner Faircloth.
I'm sorry, my light's still on.
He's still happy about his last motion.
Any nominations to my left?
No, sir.
Okay.
All right.
Appointments, number 6, Commissioner Council.
And I hereby move that we reappoint Laura Leal to the Fayetteville Area Convention and Visitors Bureau Board of Directors in the Hotel Motel over 100 rooms category. Reappoint Becky Kirby to the Board of Directors in the at-large representative position. Reappoint Denzel Lucas to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council in the at-large representative position. Reappoint August Newman to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council in the member of Faith Community Representative, and appoint John Larch to the Board of Health in the engineer representative position. If I can get a second.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
I move, Richard.
Well,
Second.
Hold it, hold it, hold it,
sorry.
hold it.
That's right. Don't forget
We
my
got a
people.
couple of young ladies
Yeah,
been
that's
waiting
I'm
right here
sorry.
with smiles on their faces, and you now
A
have,
song in their heart.
you now have the floor.
Well, Commissioners, I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity to sit in on this meeting, and I found it very insightful about all the things that we're doing within Fayetteville and all the motions that are being carried, and I found it very interesting as well, all the work that you do for our city, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Hello, I would also like to thank you for having us two here. And what I got out of everything was how we as a city or as a county can come together to work towards the betterment of the county as a whole. And I feel like that is very great that we have the public and we can hear their insights and their problems. And I feel like that is what I got out of it. Thank you.
We certainly thank you too for coming this evening. We hope you enjoy your vacation. So when is school out?
The day of Thanksgiving. We have school on Wednesday due to hurricane.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a full day. So,
Happy Thanksgiving to you, as
Thank
well
you.
as those of you that are in our audience this evening, and all the residents of Cumberland County. And we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. How about a call for a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I think they wanted a picture just before.
Oh.
Because they had,
I think Glenn
We
wanted
have
a picture.
let's go back to the youth council.
Can we adjourn? Can we adjourn first?
Yes,
Yes,
I
sure.
move we adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you. Picture
Okay.
time.